Newton and the Falling Apple. One afternoon, Isaac Newton sat quietly beneath an apple tree, feeling uninspired by the difficult questions in his mind. When an apple suddenly fell nearby, the simple event inspired him to ask why objects always fall toward the ground. The falling apple became a source of inspiration and gave him a fresh idea about an invisible force. Encouraged by this idea, Newton began a long and creative study of motion and gravity. His willingness to question an ordinary event became an inspiring example of scientific thinking. Today, this inspirational story motivates people to observe the world carefully and make new discoveries. The pursuit of happiness. Chris was an aspiring stockbroker and a hopeful father who wanted to give his son a better life. He aspired to find a successful career and aimed to earn a permanent position at a brokerage firm. As an aspirant in a competitive training program, he worked hard to become the best candidate for the job. Even when he and his son became homeless, his aspirations and ambitions kept him moving forward. His greatest aspiration was to create a secure home, and he never abandoned that goal. After he finally earned the position, his journey became an aspirational and uplifting story about hope and perseverance. David and Goliath. The Israelite soldiers lost their spirits and morale whenever the giant Goliath challenged them. David, a spirited young shepherd, stepped forward with remarkable courage. His brave spirit came from faith and inner strength, not from physical size. David's confidence encouraged the frightened soldiers and lifted their spirits. Armed with only a sling and a stone, he faced Goliath with courage and determination. After David defeated the giant, the soldiers were in high spirits and filled with hope. Siddhartha and the Bodhi tree. Prince Siddhartha left his palace to begin a spiritual journey, an inner search for truth. Although he lived in comfort, he felt spiritually empty, or empty inside, and wanted deeper meaning in life. Years of meditation deepened his spirituality and strengthened his inner life. Beneath the Bodhi tree, he remained still and sought spiritual awakening, or enlightenment. After a long night of reflection, Siddhartha became spiritually awakened and deeply aware of the causes of suffering. He became a spiritual teacher and a wise guide, sharing compassion and wisdom with others. Cinderella and the Midnight Spell. The fairy godmother warned Cinderella that the magic would expire, or end, at midnight. Cinderella went to the ball, but every turn of the clock brought the spell closer to its expiry time, its final deadline. When the clock began to strike 12, the magic was expiring and slowly fading away. Cinderella ran down the palace steps, but the spell expired, or ended, before she reached home. The expiration, or ending, of the magic changed the carriage back into a pumpkin and her gown into an old dress. Although the wonderful night had expired and was over, the glass slipper helped the prince find Cinderella. Julius Caesar and the Ides of March. In ancient Rome, a group of senators formed a conspiracy, or secret plot, against Julius Caesar. They conspired, or secretly planned, to remove Caesar because they feared his growing power. Brutus and Cassius became leading conspirators, or plotters, in the plan. While conspiring and plotting, the senators met privately and chose the Ides of March for their attack. Their conspiratorial and secretive behavior was intended to hide the danger from Caesar. On the Ides of March, the conspiracy or scheme ended with Caesar's death and was followed by civil war. Hillary and Tenzing reached the summit. In 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay climbed toward the summit of Mount Everest, where the thin air made respiration, or breathing, difficult. Their respiratory systems, their lungs and airways, had to work much harder as the amount of oxygen decreased. During the difficult climb, they often stopped to respire, or breathe, slowly and steadily. While respiring and taking deep breaths, they used supplementary oxygen to continue climbing. Each expiratory breath, or outward breath, formed a small cloud in the freezing air. At last, careful respiration and controlled breathing helped them reach the summit safely. Phi-Dipides and the first marathon. According to an ancient legend, Phi-Dipides began a long run from Marathon to Athens under the hot Greek sun. As his body grew warmer, he began to perspire, or sweat, to keep himself cool. Although he was perspiring and sweating heavily, he continued running across the rocky hills. Beads of perspiration, or drops of sweat, covered his forehead and cooled his skin as they evaporated. By the time he reached Athens, he had perspired or sweated so heavily that his clothing was soaked. His heavy perspiration, or heavy sweating, showed his great physical effort, but he successfully delivered the message of victory. The emperor's new clothes. 2 swindlers arrived in the emperor's city, and a clever deception began to transpire, or unfold. It transpired, or became known, that they claimed their cloth was invisible to foolish people. As the plan transpired and unfolded, the emperor's ministers pretended that they could see the beautiful fabric. During the royal parade, a child spoke honestly, and it transpired, or became clear, that the emperor was wearing no clothes. The embarrassed emperor finally understood what had transpired, or happened, inside his palace. What transpired or took place that day showed everyone how fear and pride can hide the truth. Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack planted the magic beans, and by morning a giant beanstalk had grown toward the clouds, beginning transpiration, or water loss, through its new leaves. As the morning sun warmed the beanstalk, transpiration, or water loss from the leaves, gradually increased. Its roots absorbed water from the soil to replace the moisture escaping through transpiration, the release of water vapor. Tiny openings in the leaves allowed transpiration, or evaporation from the leaves, to continue. While Jack climbed higher, transpiration, or continuous water loss, created a pull that carried water up the enormous stem. Even near the clouds, the beanstalk's transpiration, or release of moisture, helped keep its giant leaves cool and alive. The ant and the grasshopper. During the warm summer, a grasshopper sang while an ant carried grain, and both insects breathed through spiracles, or tiny air openings. As the grasshopper jumped through the field, its spiracles, or breathing openings, allowed air to enter its body. Each spiracle, or small air hole, on the ant's body continued working as it carried food home. Their spiracular breathing system, or network of air tubes, carried oxygen directly through their bodies without lungs. When winter arrived, the grasshopper rested and moved slowly, but its spiracles, or breathing holes, still opened and closed as it breathed. After asking the ant for help, the grasshopper learned to prepare for winter while breathing quietly through its spiracles, or air openings.